An aide to the governor of Delaware goes missing.
No one knew whether she was alive or dead.
He said he saw a trickle of red blood come out of a hole.
At the center of a love triangle, a powerful millionaire.
He knew every player in Wilmington and in Delaware.
So getting at the truth will require twisting some arms.
We're going to be in a position of making an offer that he can't turn down.
The missing persons case that captivates the nation, all the way to the White House. Wilmington, Delaware. The biggest city in a tiny state. Though it's a hub for business and politics, it feels more like a small town.
It's a city of less than 100,000 people. It has a very provincial feel. Everybody there seems to know everybody else.
Nobody understands that better than 30-year-old Anne Marie Fahey, a prominent aide to the state governor.
Annie was tall, about 5'10", vivacious, beautiful hair, beautiful smile, great eyes. Annie had an incredible laugh.
Say cranberry juice.
And she had an infectious personality. She had that kind of ability to take you in and make you feel comfortable right away.
Anne Marie's boyfriend of 9 months, Michael Scanlon, comes to pick her up. It's a warm summer night, and they're headed to her brother's house for a barbecue.
That she really liked him, and the relationship was getting serious. And you can tell that when when people are together all the time, they were kind of inseparable.
Strangely, Anne Marie isn't answering the door, though her car is out front. It's unlike her to forget a date.
If she was supposed to be somewhere, she would be there, or you would hear from her as to why she wasn't going to be there.
Michael calls Anne Marie's family to see if she's already gone ahead to the barbecue. But her 3 brothers and her sister haven't seen her. In fact, her sister Kathleen hasn't heard from Anne Marie in 3 days. With rising alarm, Kathleen and Michael start calling Anne Marie's friends, but no one knows where she is.
When she didn't show up for the barbecue, they were very concerned. And Kathleen and Mike went to Annie's apartment.
Inside, there's no sign of Anne Marie, but the state of her apartment fuels their fears.
There was food left on the counter that had gone bad. Annie was very meticulous. Annie's one of these people who folded her dirty laundry.
Kathleen Fahey places an urgent call to Wilmington police and the governor's office.
Anne Marie was a trusted aide of the governor's, and so her disappearance was no small matter.
The Delaware State Police are immediately alerted as well.
Wilmington Police Department was already on scene. They had already conducted an initial assessment. Governor Carper's chief of staff asked that we respond and see if there was any type of assistance that we could offer.
Though detectives have found no evidence of forced entry and no signs of violence, there are indications everywhere that something is wrong. Anne Marie's bed is unmade. There are shoeboxes on the bedroom floor, an address and a gift package. In addition, Anne Marie's answering machine is full of unreturned messages dating back 3 days.
It was totally unlike her to simply take off on her own and go someplace without telling anybody where she was.
What's more, her car is parked outside, and her purse and wallet are in the house.
There's really no reason to believe that she just walked out of her apartment and disappeared. The belief was that she had met with some type of foul play.
Investigators immediately fan out across the neighborhood, searching for witnesses and information. And not far away, they hit pay dirt.
We located an individual who lived 1 or 2 doors up that had seen her get into and leave with an individual in a black Jeep Cherokee.
Who was this mysterious man that was driving? And could Anne Marie have left with him in a hurry? Back in the apartment, Kathleen stumbles upon a startling discovery. Evidence of a secret life her kid sister had kept hidden even from her family, in a stack of intimate letters that are not from Michael Scanlon.
That was the first indication that we had, an unknown party, a person of interest. The family members were really unaware of that relationship.
The letters, some dated recently, are from a prominent 47-year-old lawyer, Thomas Capano.
His name is instantly recognizable in the state of Delaware.
Tom Capano had been the number 2 person in the city administration of Wilmington. He had been the legal counsel for the governor. He was a millionaire, he was connected, he belonged to every ritzy country club, he knew every player in Delaware.
It doesn't take long for police to find out that Capano's car is a black Jeep.
So there was reason to believe that he was recently visiting the apartment and she had gotten into the Jeep and left with him. It was extremely imperative that we make contact with him and see what knowledge he might have of her whereabouts. Has she called him? Has he seen her? What involvement, if any, has he had with her in the last several days while she's been missing?
With no time to waste, detectives head out to see if Capano can shed light on Anne Marie's whereabouts.
The obvious hope on our part was that we would visit the home of Thomas Capano and we would locate her, that she was spending the weekend with him for whatever reason, and that would be the end of it.
Could Anne Marie Fahey be alive and well, sharing a secret romantic weekend with Capano? Or could her apparent romantic triangle have had deadly consequences? 30-year-old Anne Marie Fahey hasn't been seen for over 3 days. She is a young woman who is in deep waters emotionally. She was seriously involved with credit card company executive Michael Scanlon, but she was also seeing a well-respected and powerful older man, Thomas Capano.
He was a millionaire, he was connected, he had been the legal counsel to the governor, he had been rumored to be considering a run for attorney general, and he was a partner in a very prominent law firm.
At 3:40 a.m., Lieutenant Mark Daniels and Sergeant Elmer Harris show up at the house where Thomas Capano has lived for nearly a year since separating from his wife.
Mr. Capano responded favorably to our request to enter the residence and sit down with him and chat about Miss Fahey.
A friend of Anne Marie's has already called Capano with the news that she's missing. He doesn't know where she is, but he wants to help investigators any way he can.
He revealed that he had an on and off relationship with Miss Fahey for several years.
Capano and Anne Marie had met 2 years earlier at a political event and started having lunches together.
She loved the attention she was getting from Tom Capano. This was a guy who had money. This is a guy who had class. This is a guy who had a name, none of which the Faheys had.
Capano was intent on wooing the beautiful Anne Marie.
He told her he was unhappy in his marriage, and she was completely smitten with him. She was a very vulnerable person.
She felt very guilty from the outset because of the fact that he was married. But she ultimately caved to his overtures and had an affair with him. But she never felt good about it. She felt that she was committing a sin.
But in spite of her guilt, Anne Marie couldn't resist Capano's protective and all-embracing love, just what the vulnerable woman most craved.
Her mom died when she was very young of cancer, and her dad had a drinking problem. And as a result of that, they had financial problems. And so it was very difficult growing up.
Even as an adult, Anne Marie desperately sought security and acceptance, and Capano lavished that upon her.
Here she was with this man that she really hoped was going to be able to take her away from all of that.
Romantically involved, but it's been over.
But Capano says the affair had ended, and for the past 6 months, the relationship had been strictly platonic. They'd still get together as supportive friends. In fact, he readily admits they'd done just that right before she vanished.
His most recent contact with her was 3 days earlier.
On Thursday night, he picked her up around 6:30, and they drove to nearby Philadelphia.
Had dined together at the Panorama restaurant in Philadelphia. He described the dinner as them, having a good time.
They left the restaurant about 9 p.m. Just before 10 o'clock, Capano says he escorted Anne Marie back to her place, where he surprised her with a gift.
A dress from Talbot's that she had seen and had mentioned to him. He says, I have something special for you I want to give you.
The same dress that investigators had seen at Anne Marie's apartment. By 10:15, Capano had left Anne Marie safe in her home. According to him, all was well.
On the way back to his house, he stopped to purchase some cigarettes at a gas station.
He was back at his house before 10:30.
We had indicated to Mr. Capano that we'd like to return and do a formal statement with him.
Anytime. We'd love to.
He graciously volunteered to meet with us and give us a statement.
But in his gut, Daniels feels that there is more to this story. The beautiful but troubled woman had strong attachments to two men. Could a toxic love triangle have provoked one of them to hurt or even kill Anne Marie? With Capano fully cooperating with police, detectives now grill Anne Marie's boyfriend Michael Scanlon for more information about their relationship.
When did you find out about Thomas Capano?
Just now. I never knew about Tom.
He seemed very forthcoming.
The two had met 9 months earlier on a blind date arranged by her boss, the governor.
They set up a little meeting in my pub upstairs.
That was in September of 1995. Scanlon claims he knew nothing about Anne Marie's relationship with Capano until now. But as their romance grew more serious, did Scanlon find out about Anne Marie's ongoing dinners with her ex and fly into a possessive rage? To explore this possibility, an officer is assigned to verify Scanlon's whereabouts over the previous 3 days. By now, 12 hours have lapsed since Anne Marie is reported as missing, and investigators still have no solid leads.
We didn't have a crime scene. Nobody knew where it occurred, if there was a crime. There was no body, and there was no murder weapon.
Though the men in Anne Marie's life are still top suspects, the detectives can't afford to get tunnel vision at this early stage of the investigation.
What was important is to not overlook anything that we needed to rule out.
Was this a stranger who had abducted her or killed her? Had she gone away voluntarily? Had she committed suicide? Or had she just run away?
Police now extend their search throughout the surrounding areas.
There was a considerable amount of crime within several blocks. It was on the fringe of bad neighborhoods.
The area around the apartment where she could have met with foul play through a mugging or a robbery. We did aerial searches as well as foot searches.
Meanwhile, Lieutenant Daniels sets off on a mission of his own to the restaurant in Philadelphia where Anne Marie was last seen with Thomas Capano.
We found the waitress at the restaurant. We spoke to her about the couple having dinner. Did she recall these two people? And she did.
Her description of the dinner is the polar opposite of Capano's warm account of a dinner between old friends.
She informed us that they did not look like they were enjoying themselves. She said it looked as though it were two people that were in the process of breaking up. That indicated that he had something to hide.
And that's not the only indication there's something very fishy about Capano's story.
Detectives made an inquiry on the gas station where Mr. Capano had allegedly stopped for cigarettes on his way home.
Capano said it was just after 10 o'clock.
The establishment was closed at the time that he indicated that the purchase would have been made.
Why would Capano have lied? What secrets was he guarding so closely? After sorting through all her belongings in search of clues, Anne Marie's family comes forward with stunning new evidence. The missing woman's journal, in which she writes about her relationship with both Capano and Michael Scanlon.
Some of the last entries were the fact that you needed to dissolve this relationship with Thomas Capano.
Anne Marie's final entry, 9 weeks before her disappearance, contained some especially damning words.
I finally put an end to Tom Capano, what a controlling, manipulative, insecure, jealous maniac.
Was he so jealous that he would commit murder? Anne Marie's journal cannot provide that answer, but it does reveal her true feelings about Michael Scanlon.
The diary also showed that Anne Marie was very much in love with Michael Scanlon, and that she was concerned that Tom Capano was going to try to ruin that relationship.
An investigation into Scanlon has provided evidence that he's on the up and up.
He had made numerous attempts to contact her, left different messages. His alibi as to where he was on particular dates and times and over the course of the last couple of days seemed to be appropriate.
With Scanlon off the suspect list, all the evidence points in another direction. Determined to get some real answers this time, Daniels and Harris head back to Capano's home, where they get a much less welcome reception.
His demeanor or attitude had completely changed. He was very resistant. He said that he wished he had not spoken to investigators, and the only way he would give a statement was through his attorney.
Is he simply being cautious? He is, after all, a well-respected man with a glowing reputation. He has long been considered the golden boy in his influential family.
His reputation was that he was the good Capano.
The same can't be said for Thomas Capano's brothers.
The Capano family had a bad reputation and a criminal reputation. Louis Capano had been convicted of a crime. Jerry Capano had been convicted of a crime. Joe Capano had been convicted of a crime.
But it seems impossible that Thomas Capano, who's always seemed beyond reproach, could have anything to do with Anne Marie's disappearance. And yet his story isn't adding up.
His behavior wasn't consistent with someone who was concerned about Anne Marie's whereabouts. He was not cooperative in that second contact that the police had with him. That was another red flag.
Could a man with Thomas Capano's power and position risk everything over the end of a love affair? And if so, would that same power let him get away with murder? Anne Marie Fahey, last seen with her former lover, Thomas Capano, has now been gone for 4 days, and her many loved ones are desperate with worry. An initial search for the woman turned up nothing.
No one knew where she was, whether she was alive or dead.
Her face is now plastered all over her hometown of Wilmington, Delaware, as law enforcement pleads with the public for any tips or sightings of the young governor's aide.
Family, of course, was hoping against hope that she was alive and went to great lengths to try to locate her. Took out billboards. They organized a search of a nearby park. Many people showed up for that.
Her apartment was right across the street from Brandywine Springs State Park. She used to go jogging there.
So if someone wanted to hide the body for some reason, that Brandywine Park would have been a convenient local place to do that.
Myself and at least 200 or 300 other people, we gathered at the park, and the police kind of broke us up into groups. The whole time you're searching, you're praying you don't find what you're looking for.
But after hours of searching, Anne Marie's family is no closer to learning her fate.
Nothing was found.
And with no body and no murder weapon, detectives can't move forward in their pursuit of their top suspect, Thomas Capano. He's a powerful man with powerful friends.
He was connected. And in fact, his connections were a concern.
Discreetly, detectives have been talking to the few friends who knew about Anne Marie's relationship with Tom.
Come to you at all saying he was abusive or he hurt her in any way?
Well, not really, but there was one time.
By the summer of 1995, Anne Marie started to see a dark side to Capano's devotion.
Pretty quickly, it seems like she began to understand that he was controlling, that he was manipulative.
He tried to set her up in an apartment, and he put obstacles in the way of seeing her friends.
Would become enraged or angered when she upset him for whatever reason.
And right around that time, Anne Marie met Michael Scanlon.
Both were Catholic, raised Catholic, and Michael Scanlon was a relationship she could feel good about. She hoped to marry him someday.
Anne Marie told Capano about her feelings for Scanlon. But even though she ended their sexual relationship, Capano wouldn't let her go. He began calling Anne Marie incessantly, following her, and keeping tabs on her new relationship.
There was an incident where she wouldn't answer the door, and he climbed the fire escape and was banging on the window and demanded that he let her in.
He also insisted that she return all of his gifts and vowed that no other man would see her in the clothes he had bought her.
She was worried or concerned he might become violent.
On the night of June 27th, had Anne Marie finally made it clear to Tom Capano that he would never win her back?
What we believe happened was she was either persuaded or coerced or brought to his house, but it was there that she was killed. We also believe that there was some attempt to make it look like she had gone back to her apartment.
So we had potential motive, we had proximity, we had him being seen with her last.
But the investigation has some distinct challenges.
We didn't have at that point any evidence to get us into his house with a search warrant.
And the prime suspect has made himself scarce. Capano is holed up at his beach house in New Jersey, and his lawyers are stonewalling.
Once Capano refused to cooperate with the police, in my own heart, I feared the worst.
8 days after Anne Marie's disappearance, the high-profile case gets even bigger.
Whenever the governor did anything with the White House, it was Annie who dealt with President Clinton's staff, and they loved her.
President Clinton at the time offered the assistance of the federal government to Governor Carper. So that really blew it off the map, so to speak.
For investigators, the involvement of the FBI is more than welcome news.
It was so important to have a federal investigation that was run independent of and in secret from the local authorities.
A federal investigation changes the playing field for Capano.
We wanted to make sure that not only would Tom Capano not be able to influence the investigation, but that he wouldn't be able to find out what the investigation was uncovering.
Capano's new adversary, the FBI, takes the investigation to another level. They put a pen register on his phone to track his calls.
To find out whom he had been in touch with on the night of what we thought was the killing.
The numbers reveal a whole new layer of intrigue and deceit.
It wasn't just Anne Marie Fahey he was having an affair with, he was having multiple affairs.
The man who had been so obsessed with Anne Marie was seeing not one, but several other women.
It was very shocking to find out how many mistresses he had.
But there was one in particular who stood out, someone he'd called the night Anne Marie went missing.
The pen register showed that Tom Capano was communicating with a woman named Debbie McIntyre.
Debbie McIntyre and Tom Capano had been lovers for 17 years. And on the night of Anne Marie's disappearance, at 11:30 p.m., he placed a call to Debbie McIntyre.
We went out to interview her. She admitted that she had been in touch with Capano.
But she says her call on June 26th was unremarkable. Tom told her he'd been at a business meeting.
She was not even aware of Anne Marie Fahey.
At least not until a few days later, when news broke that the young woman had disappeared and had last been seen with Capano. She says nothing in his behavior suggested anything out of the ordinary happened on that Thursday evening.
She had seen him on the Friday, and he was calm and collected.
Detectives wonder if McIntyre's blind faith in Capano is for real. Is she covering for him? Or does she have a sinister secret of her own? After an extensive search for Anne Marie Fahey comes up empty-handed, investigators get unexpected help when President Clinton puts the FBI on the case. They uncover prime suspect Thomas Capano's sordid past, including another mistress, Debbie McIntyre, whom he called the night Anne Marie disappeared. Meantime, Connolly scrutinizes the purchases Capano made the morning after Anne Marie's disappearance.
We found a credit card purchase from Wallpaper Warehouse, and we thought this was odd.
It stands out like a sore thumb amidst his high-end restaurants and entertainment expenses.
Why was Tom Capano, a millionaire who wouldn't dirty his hands with home repairs, buying wallpaper?
Connolly calls the business and is put through to their subsidiary, Airbase Carpets.
This is suspicious. This would be something along the lines that he killed Anne Marie, wrapped her body in a carpet, and got rid of it.
Detectives pay an immediate visit to Capano's housekeeper.
She said, you know, now that you say it, the carpet changed. He put a new carpet in, a new Oriental rug. The old carpet was gone and the couch was gone.
Were the old carpet and sofa removed because they were soaked in Anne Marie's blood? Now investigators have the opportunity they've been waiting for. In the early morning hours of July 31st, a search warrant is issued for the home of Thomas Capano.
We executed the search warrant very early in the morning, before 6 o'clock. The FBI and the Wilmington police knocked on his door.
Thomas Capano, with the DA's office. We have a warrant to search the premises.
He didn't say very much. He was clearly not happy.
Mr. Capano knows a lot what's going on in the city of Wilmington. He has contacts.
But his local contacts couldn't protect him from this.
It was a federal search warrant. It was not a state warrant.
Agents swarmed the Capano property, searching for any pertinent evidence, especially in the great room, where the missing carpet and sofa had been, and particularly for blood spatter.
I got something?
Before long, Connolly and Munson are summoned.
On the wall, we find a speck of blood smaller than the eraser on a pencil.
In the weeks that follow, a blood donation made by Anne Marie is retrieved and sent for DNA analysis.
We were able to obtain a sample from that blood and match it up to the sample we found at Mr. Capano's house, and it was a match.
It's a huge discovery. But a single drop of blood won't prove Capano's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Days later, the FBI gets an unexpected phone call from an employee of Tom's brother, Lewis.
FBI, how may I direct your call?
We found out that the morning after Anne Marie was killed, a dumpster had been removed from a construction site managed by Louis Capano, Tom Capano's brother. We traced where that dumpster had been deposited in the local landfill.
Whatever was in that dumpster has now been at the site for 6 weeks.
We conducted a search for 2 days. We didn't find anything.
So prosecutors call Louis Capano before a grand jury to confront him about the dumpsters. Louis admits that the container held a sofa that was covered in blood.
There was blood on the couch because she had tried to kill herself.
Tom Capano told him that Anne Marie had slit her wrists, and that was why Tom Capano had put blood-stained items in the dumpster.
Although Anne Marie had struggled with depression over the years, family, friends, and even Anne Marie's own therapist insist that she'd never been suicidal. Without a note or a body, suicide had already been ruled out. News that Louis Capano has appeared before the grand jury feeds the growing sense that Tom Capano is somehow behind the young woman's disappearance. Then, the break they've been needing finally comes through.
I received a call in my office one day from someone who said, "My friend just bought a boat from Tom Capano's brother, Jerry Capano, and the anchor is missing." Now, anchor, boat, body, anchor.
The boat was sold on July 6th, just 1 week after Anne Marie's disappearance. Witnesses report seeing Tom's truck parked outside Jerry's beach house for hours the day after Anne Marie disappeared. Did Tom turn to his younger brother for help with the gruesome task? The chances of Jerry Capano ratting out his older brother seem slim to none.
We didn't want to approach Jerry until we thought we had a good chance of getting the truth from him.
So Connolly decides to lay a careful trap for Jerry Capano in the hopes of ensnaring Thomas.
We knew he had a drug problem, so we started an undercover operation to try to catch Jerry when he had drugs in his possession, and then use that as leverage against him.
Finally, on October of 1997, 16 months after Anne Marie's disappearance, Connolly's trap is ready to spring.
Hands up! Nobody move too much!
A raid on Jerry's house goes down without a hitch.
Jerry Capano, you're under arrest for illegal drug and firearm possession.
We then had significant leverage on Jerry. Borrowing the line from The Godfather, I said, when we talk to Jerry, we're going to be in a position of making an offer that he can't turn down.
But will it be enough to get Jerry to spill his guts? Or will he choose to take the fall to protect his big brother? A single drop of blood found during a search of Thomas Capano's house is all the physical evidence police have to help explain Anne Marie Fahey's disappearance 16 months ago. But now, after a dramatic drug and weapons bust of his younger brother Jerry, investigators are using their leverage to get him to spill the beans on his brother for the presumed murder of his ex-girlfriend.
On August 6th, did you go out on boats?
And to their relief, fear of jail proves stronger than family loyalty.
The purpose was to dispose of a body.
Tom Capano showed up at 5:45 in the morning on June 28th at Jerry's house.
Thomas wants to know if he can take a ride on Jerry's boat. Jerry knows exactly what he means.
He had already asked Jerry months before if he could use Jerry's boat if he ever had to dispose of a body.
Tom had told Jerry that someone was trying to extort him for money and threatening his kids, and he might have to deal with it this way.
And then Tom Capano took Jerry Capano to Tom's house, where in the garage was the cooler with a chain wrapped around it and a lock. They drove with the cooler to Stone Harbor, got on Jerry's boat.
Jerry drives the boat to open waters, 60 miles off the Jersey shore.
At that point, they dumped the cooler into the ocean.
But the cooler doesn't sink.
Jerry took out a rifle he had on board, he put a deer slug in it and shot it at the cooler. Put a hole in the cooler, and he said he saw a trickle of red blood come out of the hole. It still wouldn't sink. At that point, they brought the cooler back to the side of the boat. Jerry wanted no part of this, and he turned around and refused to look. But he could hear Tom opening the cooler, taking the body out, wrapping the body in the anchor chain from the boat, and then putting it in the water.
When Jerry turns around, he sees something that will be forever etched in his memory.
Anne Marie's foot sink to the bottom of the ocean.
After a year and a half of investigation, Connolly finally has Anne Marie's killer within his grasp when he receives an urgent message.
I received on my pager a 911 call. FBI surveillance, which was overt at this point on Tom Capano, had spotted him going to Joe Capano's house, picking up suitcases and Joe, and getting on I-95 north towards the Philadelphia airport. We couldn't risk him getting on a plane flying to who knows where.
Connolly orders the immediate arrest of Capano on the grounds of obstructing justice.
Step out of the vehicle with your hands up.
After Capano was arrested, he was brought to the U.S. Attorney's office, and he waited in a conference room until his attorneys showed up.
Later that day, Connolly makes a dramatic presentation to Capano and his lawyers, using his brother Jerry's recorded testimony.
We had a cooler of the type we knew he had bought, and we had shot a hole in it. And we had an anchor, and we had a tape recorder. And we played the tape-recorded statements for him.
Thomas Capano is charged with the first-degree murder of Anne Marie Fahey and taken to Gander Hill Prison in Wilmington.
So to have him arrested, finally see him on television, in handcuffs, put in a police van, it was an incredible emotional release. You were torn between high-fiving that finally the SOB's in jail, but part of your heart is breaking because you know that Annie's never coming back. She's gone.
But Anne Marie's family knows Capano isn't going to go down without a brutal fight. Then a phone call from out of the blue gives Connolly some astonishing news.
We received a telephone call from a gentleman who said he and a friend had found a cooler floating in the ocean within days of June 27, 1996. It had a hole in it from a shotgun.
Within hours, officers have a key piece of corroborating evidence in their hands.
The cooler was the ultimate corroboration of Jerry. Tom Capano could never deny credibly that Jerry and he got rid of the body. It really was divine intervention.
Then, Louis Capano, afraid that he too could be implicated, comes forward to the prosecutors.
Louis Capano always looked out for himself. So Louis Capano struck a deal with us.
He tells Connolly that while the carpet ended up in the dumpster at his construction site, the sofa was tossed in a motel dumpster as well as a gun.
We learned that Debbie McIntyre had in fact bought a weapon shortly before Anne Marie was killed.
Could this be the same gun that belonged to Capano's longtime mistress, Debbie McIntyre? Suddenly, Thomas Capano's mistress is right at the center of the investigation. Connolly brings Debbie McIntyre in.
I asked her, did you ever see Tom Capano in possession of a gun? She says, no. Does he own a gun? No. Did you ever buy a gun? No.
Then Connolly goes in for the kill.
He said, well, how about you? And immediately the color of her face changed and she became very nervous.
McIntyre admits she bought a gun for her self-protection, but says she was scared to have it in the house, so she threw it away.
And then I pulled out a plastic bag with the exact type of gun that we knew she had purchased, black .22. I said, well, you know, if Tom Capano's fingerprints were on this particular gun, how would you be able to account for that?
Cornered at last, McIntyre comes clean.
I bought the gun and I gave it to him.
She admitted she had bought the pistol for Tom Capano at his request, and that he had taken the gun and she had never seen it since.
Capano told her that he was the victim of extortionists, and he needed the gun for protection. That was 2 months before the night that Anne Marie Fahey was murdered.
This was a premeditated killing, a very well thought out killing, planned months ahead.
On the first day of the trial, the defense begins with a bold statement confirming that Anne Marie is indeed dead, but insisting it wasn't Tom Capano who killed her.
The defense at trial was that Debbie McIntyre had killed Anne Marie Fahey in a fit of jealousy, but by accident.
Against the advice of his lawyers, Capano speaks in his own defense. He has a brand new version of what happened on the night of June 27, 1996, and claims he's ready to tell them who really killed Anne Marie. After having dinner in Philadelphia, the couple returned to his home.
Debbie McIntyre sort of burst in on Capano and Anne Marie, had a gun, and was threatening to kill herself, and in fact moved the gun towards her own head.
Capano says he lunged to stop her.
She didn't mean to shoot Anne Marie, but accidentally, the pistol discharged.
Capano presents himself as the white knight who tried to save Debbie McIntyre from criminal charges.
Yes, I did buy the gun.
But when she takes the stand, she completely denies being at the house that night and tells the jury everything she knows about the gun.
I think anybody who watched her testify would realize Debbie McIntyre did not kill Anne Marie Fahey.
As they present their closing arguments, the prosecution has one final card to play.
Cooler was the last piece of evidence we presented to the jury. Ferris and I walked the cooler up in front of the jury.
It was incredibly emotional because you have to understand that when you looked at that cooler, you realized that that was Annie's coffin and that was the last place that she had ever been.
The jury deliberates for 3 days. On a Sunday morning, the day Wilmington is normally quiet, the court reconvenes to hear the verdict. 2.5 years after the death of Anne Marie Fahey, the jury finds Thomas Capano guilty of murder in the first degree.
There was a gasp. There was crying on both sides of the room. There was hugs on our side of the room, very emotional hugs, but a lot of crying. There was a lot of crying on his side of the room. It was an incredibly emotional scene.
The jury votes 10-2 for the death penalty, though on appeal, he is resentenced to life in prison. In September of 2011, Thomas Capano dies in his prison cell of a heart attack.
Despite Tom Capano's wealth, despite his connections, despite a justice system that doesn't always work, in this case, justice was done.
Anne Marie Fahey's body is never recovered, but a bench is dedicated to her in Brandywine Park.
We just had a very intimate, small service there of the family and closest friends. It was raining. It was a very soft rain. And I remember standing there thinking, this is Anne Marie's funeral. This is the closest we're ever going to get to having a funeral for Anne Marie.